Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. After winning a Pulitzer for her play about the increasingly bleak economic outlook of a group of Pennsylvania factory workers, writer Lynn Nottage has turned her attention to a different continent and a different species, and possibly an even bleaker tale. Mlima's tale follows the story of Mlima, an elephant traveling through the corrupt, desperate, and illegal ivory trade. Please welcome director Jo Bonney and actor Kevin Mambo, who I think plays 13, 14 parts in the play.
I think nine. Somewhere in there. Yeah.
Congratulations on the show. I saw it last week. It's beautiful. It's never what you expect it to be, and it's a real achievement in terms of what it sets out to do and how it executes it, because in no way does it set out to do anything easy. I'll say that to start. Jo, you said that a lot of this was Lynn kind of brought this to you, and you had somewhat of an open rein to really work with her on this. So, what was that like? Considering it's kind of, I would imagine that could be kind of daunting, considering this play.
I think it's daunting, but it's also one of those great challenges when playwright, because Lynn's voice is so sure. She always knows what she wants to say, and particularly I think after doing Sweat earlier, which was a more, naturalistic style. She specifically decided with this piece that she wanted to do something that was highly theatrical. So apart from the fact that at the top she indicates, that it's 4 actors playing 26 characters, and one of those actors is literally Mlima, the spirit of the elephant. Yeah. And
it's like three actors playing 25 characters.
Kevin being one. Exactly, playing 25 characters, exactly. Which is, that's the daunting thing, actually. Yeah. But then she just left it open. Basically, it should all flow. There's no blackout until the final scene. So that's what she gave the director. So that's kind of exciting, I have to say, as a director. You just go, okay, I can just run with it. So. And
now one of the aspects, and we're going to get to the performances in a minute, they're incredible, but one of the things that I think a lot of people are talking about, which is so beautiful, is the lighting design in the play, and how you guide us through each of these scenes, and from the wilderness to an office to a different continent to galleries. What was it like working with your lighting designer and staging that, and where did you end up sort of coming up with all of those ideas and how they would guide us through?
Right. Well, a lot of that work starts before you ever get in the rehearsal room, because the idea is you have a vision for, what the actual production will be. So I worked with Ricardo Hernandez as the set designer, and we decided we wanted to make essentially what I think of as a sort of a light box, a diorama that we look into, because, Lynn set up this global journey. So we're really going through different countries in Africa. We're going to the docks. We're going to Vietnam. We're going to China. So we needed something very minimal, because what are you going to do? Like drag, we've got...
As soon as one set opens up as maximal, like the rest have to kind of
Exactly.
Be that. Yeah.
So, what are we going to do? Drag, sort of cargo on and off stage, and tables and chairs on and off stage, and sort of what? I don't know. It's like, it's impossible. You can't even go down that road. So essentially, it's just what is the minimal moments you need, and then lighting, of course, becomes crucial in that. And that was Lap Chi Chu, who was a lighting designer. He does beautiful work. I work with him all the time. So, between that and then Jen Mola as a costume designer, who also is the one who helps us, exactly delineate each of these characters, you have a really great design team.
Yeah, I imagine the costume design is one of the major aspects of helping you and the other actors kind of get from performance to performance, not just because it signifies who this character is very quickly, but also you have to be able to get in and out of it very quickly.
Very, very quickly. I mean, a lot of times we are underdressed with 3 or 4 costumes, and it's a matter of getting off stage, stripping, and coming back. Sometimes people don't realize that the same 2 people they were watching 15 seconds ago are the same 2 people who will come back as completely different people from completely different parts of the world in a completely different power dynamic. So a lot of our rehearsal was about the specificity of these transitions, and Jo was a real stickler for that in terms of really being able to crisply move from one place to another. Suddenly it becomes a very seamless transition, and you're not watching all of that. You literally are listening to the words, watching the light design, watching the show, and hearing basically what is, transitions in terms of human beings and their power struggles with each other, moving the story along. We just keep moving.
Yeah, I was telling Joe backstage that I don't read programs anymore when I sit down to watch a play. I try to make sure that I don't know anything about it. And it was about halfway through the play that I went, "Oh, this is all the same actors." Like, because you all are so good at these transitions, and at no point does it feel like you're sort of channeling to the audience that like these are all the same actors. You're diving in and out of these characters so beautifully. It's a compliment, not a question.
Thank you. A lot of the work that we did. I mean, we had a very short amount of time to really prepare. It was like 2.5, 3 weeks
Wow.
tops,
3
and then we had tech, and then we were in. So some of the discovery is still happening, but one thing that we really did as a group focus on was understanding between two people what these power dynamics are, and how this can happen, and how it tumbles together. Where in ultimately each character has a scene where they are in the top of the power struggle, and then in a scene where they're in the bottom of the power struggle. It doesn't always happen top to bottom. Sometimes it is bottom to top. But that was a really great sign point, flashpoint for us to sort of, that's something that we can hold on to, because it's not going to be about sets. We have 2 tables and 1 curtain and 3 chairs, and I have a ton of props. But ultimately, we are following the words and the story of this journey.
I'd imagine a writer like Lynn Nottage really helps guide you in terms of those power struggles as well, because the play that I saw was so clear in terms of intention between the characters and what the dynamic was between these characters.
We spent a lot of time in rehearsal parsing what this is, and sometimes agreeing and sometimes disagreeing, but really spent time in detail parsing what the layers of these relationships are, because that's actually all you're seeing. Yeah. It's not like when we were doing Ruined, where we had an entire set of trees and a bar that was built to help cradle or buffer this story. This story moves and continues to walk and continues to walk, and Mlima continues to follow us on this journey.
And it's also not one of the type of situation where, if a character's intention isn't totally clear upon first scene, by the next scene in the second act or something, we're going to really figure out who this person is. Each character really only has 1 or 2 scenes to establish exactly who they are and where they fit in this ivory trade economic chain. So what was that like, sort of developing that in the rehearsal process and making sure all of that was clear?
That was the process. I mean, day after day, just crafting it so it became sharper and sharper and sharper in terms of what's your intent, who has the power at this moment, where the power shifts in the scene, always finding that moment in the scene. I feel like Lynn always gave us a moment in the scene where there was a big shift in terms of the dynamic and what the audience suddenly realized. And so it was always, but it wasn't always clear on the page in the first read-through. It was really, day after day after day going, okay, here's the shift, here's the shift, here's the power
It's here,
dynamic.
not here. It looks like it's here, but it's here.
And Lynn,
Was she with you?
Yes,
Yes.
and that's
Oh,
the other
okay.
great thing, is that this was a very finished script that we went into the rehearsal with, but Lynn also is sitting and listening, and if she sees that she wants to highlight something or something might not be clear, she'll simply say, okay, see this line, shift to this, eliminate this line, put in this line. So she's actually also, because it's the first time she's really hearing it, in terms of getting the production on its feet, she's on a learning curve too. So that was what was really exciting, is that she actually kept on doing these tiny adjustments, not a lot, because as I said, the script was pretty solid as we went in, but she would make tiny adjustments all the way through.
Was it always clear which actor would play all the different parts? Like, was it written in the script, actor 2 plays all these parts, actor 1 No.
And there were some shifts along the way that we just had to figure out and accommodate. I mean, this is, the feat of this is that this is a brand new thing. And we started, in terms of the writing, in terms of the directing, in terms of production values, this is a thing we had not done before. And I think in terms of Lynn's writing, a thing that she had not done before. And in terms of even myself, this is a thing I have not done before. So we were really crafting the language, even Sah's movement language with our choreographer. We were really crafting this moment by moment, day by day, as opposed to this is this type of play and these are the things that we will generally use and this is the kind of production value we use, and this is the sound we use, and we have Justin Hicks playing live music as well. So it's a very organic but very heightened piece. It doesn't look this way on the page. It looks, in a lot of ways, very on the nose in terms of the information that has to happen moment to moment, but there's another very tuned in, heightened quality, which we had to find moment to moment every single day and wrestle with. Don't put that there, this goes here. This doesn't go there, it goes there. That will not, and...
Is it refreshing or scary to not have something to fall back on?
I think it's great.
Yeah, you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you're in free fall. And also, if you have a good group in the room, I mean, we had a fantastic, obviously the cast, with Sahr and Ito and Jojo as well, the other actors. And then, we've also had, as I mentioned before, Chris, our choreographer, movement guy, and Justin Hicks, who is live performer through the entire thing, creating the sounds of Mlima and the songs.
I haven't even brought that up with you in the green room or here. Yes, that is incredible. The live sounds that he's doing in the music. It's a whole new idea. I've never seen anyone do that.
Well, it's very, and that was something that Lynn and I had talked about right from the beginning, that would be exciting to have a live performer. So I always looked at it as like, which is particularly theatrical as opposed to film or TV, that you have a troupe of 5 performers, which, are the actors on stage and also Justin off stage making the music, and basically it's how they interact. So, Justin is actually like attached at the hip, with Sahr in terms of, the sounds of Mlima, and every time, I don't know if you noticed it, but there's moments where Sahr, Mlima, goes to touch the ground, and that channels the elephant voices and the ancestors of the elephants. Which is,
and it's how they communicate as well, right? They rumble through the ground in order to talk across great distances. So that became part of the vocabulary of Sahr, being able to talk to other elephants. And these are the things that you discover as you're going.
In 2 weeks.
Every time,
3
weeks.
But the most rewarding, for me, the most onstage rewarding experiences between this show and Ruined and Fela and just some of the other shows that I've done, Fortress of Solitude, has been in a room with a group of really forward-thinking, collaborative, talented people who don't have all the answers. I mean, and the really great work comes when you're trying to stand on the precipice and look forward into something, into blank space that you have no idea what's sitting out there. And that, to me, is where the really, really great and innovative work comes from in terms of teamwork and collaboration.
What is it like for you? This is a really dumb question, forgive me. But for you as an actor, not getting to sit back and watch this. Because it's the kind of show where I feel like it's like you just said, the entire development of it. I'm sure there's a part of you that would love to just be able to sit back and see what it feels like as an audience member.
Yes, I took time. The only time I really had was during tech, and slip off stage and come into the house and really get a perspective of what this looks like and what is too little and what is too much and what our tonality is, which you don't get to see. It's sort of like being on set and your second team comes in to get lit. If your director's not talking to you, you watch the monitor and see the second team to get an idea of what the tonality is and what the viewpoint is. So for us as the actors on stage, we don't really have a lot of time to reflect. We are moving to the next thing. And while there's 2 people happening, you're in the middle of picking up the baton. It's constantly picking up the baton from one another. And between that and our lighting and our sound and our music and our stage designer and new scenes opening and flats moving, it's just one large fluid piece, together. And not one thing can be out of place. It really is about that synergy.
Is it exhausting for the actors? Yeah.
Well, for me now, it is not, just because we have no intermission and we really are focused and keep moving. Getting on board and learning the show for me was a lot of work.
He has a lot of text.
I have a lot of text,
Yeah.
almost half of it.
Yeah.
But it was really like getting up at 6 in the morning and spending 3 hours on my own at home working on text, then coming to work, and then us working together, and then taking one of the assistant directors or one of our interns and going back into the hallway and just sort of drilling text into myself. But now it's more about understanding and point of view and tonality and teamwork, So this is one that was difficult to front load and easier now, whereas sometimes it's easier to front load a show and then it starts to get boring later.
How difficult was it to choreograph Mlima's moves at the beginning of the play? Because I think, as we were saying before, you're riding a very thin line there of what it could fall into, and it never does that. But it is a very thin line.
Yeah, because as we said, you don't want to fall into some sort of Disney trope of,
Or even something
man
that
as
could,
elephant.
or even something that's pretentious and not beautiful.
Exactly.
Right? Like you have something there that's beautiful, but you can very easily see how it could fall into this or into that with just a little slip.
Well, I think that's also where, when you're talking about asking the questions in the room, the collaboration, with Chris and Sahr in terms of what that is to find, the language of Mlima, because I felt like from the beginning, obviously what Lynn has set up is Mlima is our protagonist. Mlima is a narrator that we travel through because all the other characters are coming and going in 16 scenes. So you can't bond with any of the human characters. They tell a story and, you can, it's like a little bit of a thriller. Is this the character who's finally going to put their foot down and have some integrity and finally not move, the death of this elephant and the tusks forward? But Mlima is, So Mlima actually is us. Mlima opens the play with a direct address to us and calling on his, family and ancestors. And so I feel like right from the beginning, we strangely identify more with an elephant than we do with the human characters. So we're complicit as one of the humans who, in so many ways, plunder the resources of countries, who are not as fortunate as the first world country that we live in. But Mlima is us in many ways. And as we know, and we all, I think at this point, understand the incredible familial bonds between, elephant groups, and that they go back to the grave, the sites of the death of their family. So, this is who we are. So it's something that there was no need to tip it into, let's play an elephant. Basically, we're putting up another sentient being. And it could be a human because, it's so narrow, the gap between us and, other creatures, I think.
One of the things that I think the play does really well is it makes it, as much as it is about the ivory trade, it's also, by the end of the play, clearly not just about the ivory trade. And as you said, it's about how we sort of pillar these countries and how first world countries sort of take the resources and put human beings in a situation where it's almost impossible to have integrity and to do the right thing. Is that something that you have to consider as a director when you're telling this story, or do you just focus on the text and focus on that this actually is just about Mlima, this elephant, and hopefully the text will carry itself into this other place for the audience?
I just, when you have a playwright who's as smart and ethical as Lynn, I feel like it's in the text. It's my job to then heighten everything that's in the text, to sort of show it. She's given us the roadmap. Then it's how you clarify that for an audience and sharpen every moment and make it entertaining so people want to go on the journey with you. I mean, this is not, I can't go into this looking like it's a moral lesson for the audience or it's educational or, that's just death. It's a piece of art and it's a piece of entertainment. So how can I make it the strongest piece of entertainment I can? And then that is going to convey Lynn's intention. Well, that's your hope.
And they're human beings in that way, too. We have 16 scenes.
Yeah.
But even within all of these moments, whoever is directly complicit or indirectly complicit, we're actually looking at a journey of a collection of actual three-dimensional people. which you have to execute in 4 minutes because that person is then going to disappear.
Right, and each execution is like, how is this person's soul corrupted in this scene, and how is this person's
And
soul
contributing or
corrupted?
not contributing or being forced to contribute or not. I think Joe and Lynn are a great collaborative team in that between them there is always an attention to detail, but there's always an effort to examine the right amount of touch on it so that we're not tipping into, you know, a morality play. We're not tipping into stereotypes. It is very much an open examination, and our audiences can come into that examination. I've been working on this. I've been fortunate to speak to a lot of Brits who have come to the show and say, where in England are you from? Or we had a troupe of Chinese students that came to the show and said, oh, by the time you guys got to China and just the language and mannerisms and dialect work just reminded me of being home. It was enough to explore these things, to open them so that our audience can come in with us. And Mlima is the lens that we can use to thread all of this together.
Let's get some questions from our audience. Who has a question? Right there.
Hi, thanks for being here. I was wondering, as you said, there was like 26 characters in the show. Is there one character in specific that you kind of look for every night? Or like, who's your favorite?
In terms of one character that is...
Yeah, like maybe not the main character, but of all those other, I guess, 25 characters.
Who's your favorite character, I
Yeah,
guess?
maybe it was that.
It was tricky to say favorite because I'm sitting next to
Yeah.
Kevin's characters is. It's tricky because for each of the actors, I think there are my favorite characters within that. I mean, I happen to love Gathinji because Gathinji is just this kind of man of bravado and so
The
complicated.
sheriff, not the sheriff, but the chief of police. Yeah.
Chief of police. I mean, he's so deeply corrupt, but also deeply into family and what it is to support family. The one who always sees that he's the one who has to give the money to the, you know, the nieces and the nephews and the cousins and the, you know, it's like very. I feel like each of these characters are complex.
Complex very quickly.
Very quickly. I mean, when you've got 16 scenes within 80 minutes, you're really just like ramping into there fast. Ito has this wonderful character, Alice, who is actually way at the end of the journey, who is the one who eventually, you know, becomes the buyer of these extraordinary tusks. And just the fact that we've watched her play men beforehand, and then she shifts into this kind of very wealthy Chinese woman, I kind of love that. And Jojo actually plays Thuy Phan, who is a Vietnamese, you know, ivory.
Gangster.
Kind of a gangster, Vietnamese gangster trader. So each one of those, I think, I just kind of find sort of delicious in terms of acting chops. But no, you need all of them in order to understand how great it is to watch these actors moving through so many characters so fast. I think that's it. It's like I don't know, it's like that's part of the pleasure of it. You know you're watching all these different, you know, characters, and you know you're only watching 3 actors delivering them, and there's something sort of thrilling about that.
Gathinji for me is the easiest. He's literally modeled after someone I know, an uncle of mine. But there's something delicious about, for me, 2 things. One, exploring the Vietnamese customs agent after spending 18 hours or whatever it was with the Vietnam documentary. I really wanted to be able to have a shift like that. We never see black actors particularly playing Asian characters, and wanted to be able to fall into it in such a way that who I am is going to be able to disappear, and that the context of what is happening is really the most important thing. And we go from that to, with me and Jojo playing an American from Boston, and in the very next scene, he's now this gangster, and we've had this gigantic power shift. That, to me, is kind of, for us as the actors, is what keeps the thing moving, because we do these really incredible shifts in such a short amount of time and in a very subtle and detailed way. And by the time I'm in the middle of the show and I'm like, my engines are completely turned on, Aziz is a lot of fun because he's just having so many problems and really trying to settle his life and get this deal done. And he also provides us, as Gathinji does, with a lot of comedy. I mean, these things that are heavy and are difficult, especially if you're traveling in Africa, Africans laugh at their tragedy a lot, but it really creates a full spectrum experience in terms of who the people are, as opposed to, this is bad, all of that is bad, this is bad. Well, we know that, but it's more interesting to see sort of some of those other shades, I think.
Two more, next one, right here.
Hi, so I know you said it's meant to be entertaining, but there's a serious political topic. I was wondering if you listened to or read some of the reactions to the plays, and how strong were they, and or how did you? Was it what you were expecting?
Right. You want to start with that?
Because we have, or let's say the actors on stage, because we are really at the front of the telling of the story for the audiences, not in terms of the preparation that we've all done as a team. People come to us in terms of their reactions. What I really have enjoyed has been audience members saying to us that I'm taking this home now and I'm coming back, but really understanding for themselves how to unpack what is really a very large issue in terms of how it deals with a lot of people. It's not one person, two people. It's not a bank robbery. It's not a mugging. It is literally, as Andrew says, criminal syndicates. It is a system that is embedded and in place, which allows us to traffic ivory, which allows us to traffic children, which allows us to also steal coltan from the Congo. These are larger institutional systems that fall out with minor players involved. So I really like that audiences in this start to see the bigger picture as opposed to that's bad and you're bad and you're bad, because it is such a situation of gradient and so many people involved. That complicity is what I think is most deadly.
And very few of the characters who are along this this trade are at all viewed as or judged, it seems, by you, the actors, the director, or the writer. They're all, for the most part, presented with some form of virtuous aspect of their personality. And this other thing is just this part, maybe there's a couple gangsters in there, but there's this other part that is just commonplace for them at this point, and it's a way to earn a living or earn a few extra bucks.
It's also, I think, we can talk about gangster sort of, aspects, but I think something that keeps on being brought up too is the respect for the art of ivory carving, which makes it very complicated because it's a centuries and centuries old art form that was always, highly appreciated in certain cultures. Actually, maybe all cultures. I mean, there's certainly a lot of people in America who have carved ivory, and I know that it was given between nations in Africa by kings and princes to each other. So, it's got a long history. So I think it's important to understand there's respect for that as an art form, but it can't be, tolerated when it results, in the death, of these amazing animals. But I think that's where the complexity is also. It's never black and white. There's all these shades of gray.
One more.
Hi. This looks like such an interesting play. I was wondering what kind of research you guys did into the ivory trade, because I'm sure that helped you kind of inform a lot of the nuances and complexities of the story.
Or script is based on an article, right?
Yes. I mean, the script is literally based on a story that Lynn had read about the death of one of the last great tuskers in Kenya. So it started with that, and that piquing her interest, and then she went on to do more research. And so when we came into it, I mean, there was a lot of research that she had already done that she was able to pass on to us, and then we used that as a jumping-off point to look at a lot of images, documentary, articles. It's just, I mean, there's a huge amount out there on this, and it's fascinating and terrible, and the pictures really painful to look at. I mean, the picture that you see Gathinji look at, that Wamwara shows him of the butchered, massacred Mlima, there are a lot of pictures out like that because literally the poachers cut off their faces. They used to hack them, but now they use chainsaws to literally cut off the face of these elephants in order to get the tusks out. I mean, it's brutal and it's ugly. And so when you see these images, it actually drives you even more to want to tell this story and to shine some light on this.
Congratulations on the play. It's
Thank you.
beautiful and incredibly well rendered. It's currently at the public till when? When can people?
June 3rd.
Till June 3rd. Mlima's Tale. Everybody go see it. It's really incredible. And give Joe and Kevin a round of applause. Thank you so much for being here.